What's going on, world? We are back. Sports Moods. We've talked about week 1 in the NFL, week 2 in college football, WWE. Now we're going to get into some tennis, some baseball, some basketball, and we're going to talk about our predictions for football in next week. We are Sports Moods. I'm C Moody with
D Moody.
2 Moodies.
1 Duty.
Sports. Let go. Yes, sir. We are back. What's going on, world? This is Sports Moods once again. I'm C Moody with
D Moody.
We're going to talk about now. We're getting into in other sports. Last week we talked about the U.S. Open, and now we're here to recap on how it ended. And for the women's, I'm here to talk to you about a lady named Sloane Stephens, which I must admit, last week I didn't even know how to spell her name. She was an unranked person going into this tournament, defeating the legendary Venus Williams and then defeating Madison Keys in 6-3, 6-0 sets, even though she had 6 unforced errors to win her first U.S. Open. And now she's ranked number 17 in the world. Now, granted, I wanted to just admire the fact that Sloane Stephens is 24 years old and Madison Keys, the opponent she had to face, the two that was going for the U.S. Open Championship, were under 25 years of age. Madison Keys is 22 years old. So for me, that was just a good thing, and that put me in a very, very, very good mood. I love to see young talent, which it makes me feel bad being the fact that I'm 26 going on 27. But hey, I'm glad for the youth. I'm glad for the youth. I'm glad for the future. So I have to give it to these women. Another thing that D Moody gave to me is the fact that in this championship win for the U.S. Open for Sloane Stephens, she grossed a $3.7 million check in this one match, this one tournament. But before that, since she's been in tennis since 2010, which I can't do the math on her age. That means she was probably 17 when she started.
Yeah, roughly 17.
Roughly 17. Mm-hmm. She grossed altogether since 2010 $4 million. So in this one check alone, she almost made her entire career earnings. So once again, big congratulations for Sloane Stephens being her first U.S. Open championship in the women's division. Not to mention the fact that this was an All-American Final Four for the women. So also a big shout out for the American talent. I mean, this is our home country. So shout out to America. And D Moody's going to give you the men's side of the U.S. Open.
Yeah, again, congratulations to Sloane Stephens on that huge win.
Definitely.
Really good for her. Really glad for her. Hopefully this won't be the last time we see her in a situation like that again. But for the men's side, a familiar face, Rafael Nadal. You know, the Final Four came down to being Rafael Nadal, Juan Martín del Potro, who met in the semifinals, and then you had Carreño Busto and Kevin Anderson. Kevin Anderson defeated Carreño Busto to advance to his first ever U.S. Open final, and then Rafael Nadal defeated Juan Martín del Potro, who ended up defeating Roger Federer to get to the semifinals, and Rafael Nadal got past del Potro to advance to yet another U.S. Open final, which had him meeting Kevin Anderson for the championship, which Rafael Nadal won. This is Rafael Nadal's third U.S. Open championship. He won it back in 2010, 2013, and then this year he's the 2017 U.S. Open champion. He is now a 16-time Grand Slam major champion. That is the second most all-time behind Roger Federer, who has 20. So Rafa's not too far behind Roger there in the
Definitely.
overall rankings for the most championships in tennis. So that was good to see Rafa get back on top of things there. This was his second Grand Slam championship he won this year. Earlier this year, he won the French Open. And then now ending the year winning the U.S. Open. And the only thing about it that a lot of people said with Rafa, it wasn't really a tough, tournament he had. If Federer would have won, he would have had to play against Federer in the semifinals.
Right.
But they said he didn't face a top 20 player in the entire U.S. Open.
Like, Nadal?
Yeah.
Wow.
So it was kind of like an easy kind of road to the championship, even though he ran into some trouble with Del Potro. But Del Potro is ranked outside of the top 20.
Yeah.
So he didn't have to play the likes of a Roger Federer or possibly a Andy Murray or Novak Djokovic, anybody like that. So, but he's still a champion. I mean, you play who's in front of you at the end of the day, and he won it. So he's a 16-time major champion.
And how old is him?
Rafa's getting up there in the age. He's probably, I don't know his exact age, maybe pushing 33, 34 years old. So he still has some couple years left in. If he can stay healthy, he possibly has a chance to maybe try to challenge Federer for the most championships all time.
Yeah, definitely, man. I really like Nadal. I like who he is. I like his gameplay. He's pretty aggressive to me. I like him. Like I said, we was talking last week about the difference between him and Federer. Federer is more smooth and precise, and Nadal is just energy with partial aggressiveness. So I like both of them. I like Nadal's style more, considering that we are both tennis players. Well, we both were former tennis players, one doubles victory champions. I always have that on my title. Nobody can take that from me.
That's right.
so definitely, man. It's a good thing for the sport to see these two legends. Even if Federer is lost, it doesn't take away from
what he's already done,
from the legacy he's already installed and into the history books. So definitely a good win for Nadal. So congratulations to both, women's and men's, Sloane Stephens and Rafael Nadal. And I think now we're going to get into some other sports. I'm going to dig into some baseball real quick. And so I have to talk about it because this actually just happened, literally just recently happened, because when I wrote this down a couple of hours ago, the Indians were at their 20th consecutive win. And now they just defeated Detroit, if I'm not mistaken, the Detroit Tigers 5-3 to add on to now make it their 21st straight game. So they're at 21 consecutive wins in this winning streak, and they only have two other teams in the past 101 years to win this many consecutive games. So we're not, me myself, not big on really baseball. I got some family members that love baseball. His favorite team is the Atlanta Braves. But, me, I love being there and I love doing it versus actually watching it. So I can't say I'm a big follower. But, this is obviously a monumental thing in baseball, in history, not just a seasonal thing, but this is something that's going into the record books of all time. So, this is a really good team, like Cleveland Indians. And so
I think to do something 20 times in a row, especially like in baseball, given the fact of playing so many games in so many days, it seems like they're always playing every other day. And then also with everything that goes into baseball, you have to have the pitching down, you have to have the batting and the defense, the outfield defense, and making the strategy, as the manager, putting the right pitcher in for the right situation. And to be able to do that against several different teams, whether you're on the road or whether you're at home, to do all those things and be able to have to, go through all those things to win that many games in a row, that's amazing. I like to see streaks in sports.
Yeah.
But baseball is kind of more of a sport where it is a team sport. Truly. You have to kind of depend on each other to figure out, like, how we're going to get through this.
Right.
It's not as opposed to where in basketball a LeBron or a Steph Curry or somebody can just take over the game at any given point. Baseball has so many different factors that go into it to be able to accomplish that. And then Cleveland also went to the World Series last year. So they lost to the Cubs. They were up 3-1 on the Cubs.
Yeah.
And the Cubs came back to win that series in 7 games. So being one win away from winning the World Series championship and then losing it the way that they did. And then to have the opportunity to possibly go back this year after all that happened, and then now getting on a hot streak toward the end of the year like this, I think will be big for them going into the playoffs in the American League.
Definitely, man. And you talking about being a team sport, like how you saying compared to basketball, LeBron James taking over a team. Even with football, man, it's a certain quarterback that if, worst case scenario, he can run the ball. But it's not like in baseball, you can't be a pitcher and expect to catch the ball in the outfield. Everybody truly has to rely on each component on every aspect.
Yeah, you
of
do.
The field.
So it's a lot of factors and a lot of stuff that goes into that. So it's that's remarkable for them to do that.
Definitely.
And you said it was only 2 other teams that has done that in 101 years.
Yeah, so. I was going to say, it goes on to it and saying, this actually comes from, let me just go ahead and not take credit for this. It comes from the Associated Press for ESPN. And it also said this streak matches the 1935 Chicago Cubs for the second longest streak since 1900. The run has put Cleveland within 5 wins of catching the 1916 New York Giants, who won 26 without a loss, but they have to add a tie to it. So that's kind of what falters that, that complete win streak. So
that was huge. And then we're probably going forward, we're getting more into baseball for your baseball fans out there as the playoffs get. That's when I kind of get really more invested in baseball when it gets around playoff World Series times. But maybe next week we can kind of throw in what the standings look like, the rankings, just to kind of show you who has the best chance to go. I know they have a wild card race in baseball as well. So teams like the Indians, the Red Sox, the Yankees, the Dodgers, I'm hearing, is having a great season. They're looking on pace to win over 100 games this year. So we'll get more into it as we go along. But then that's a huge thing that's going on in sports right now. Another tidbit I want to hit on right quick too is with NFL. We saw Randy Moss got inducted into the Vikings Ring of Honor.
Yeah. And
I wanted you to ask you, what do you think it's like to be Moss? Because they asked that question to a lot of people. Like, what is your version of being Moss?
Oh, man. My version of being Moss. Well, I mean, growing up, I used to love playing football, even though I played it not that often as far as like actual recreational sport. Even with school, I might have played once or twice, junior high school. For whatever reason, I didn't play high school. I decided to work and do other things. But I love playing football. Even when growing up through school, we always played backyard football. And that was always the one main thing. Really, when you play backyard football, the only thing you're doing it for is the pass and the catch. So, of course, being Moss is something that's going to happen.
Yeah.
So, for my idea of being Moss is definitely where you think that you're going to catch it. You think that you're going to get the ball. And the person behind you catches it right behind you. Like, almost at any situation, if you put your hand up to stop the ball and whoever behind you catches it, that's qualified as a Moss.
Like, I think that's a Moss. And also the one-handed, anytime somebody catches a one-handed catch on a defender, that's automatically Moss, or somebody who re-elevates themselves higher than you at their highest peak, and they pretty much snatch the ball.
If I can take it out your hand?
Yeah, take it out your hand. Randy Moss has put together a lot of highlight reels. And then usually when it happens, we're like, dang, he got Moss. Like, how did he catch that or whatever? So I did think he brought that excitement to the NFL.
Definitely.
And then, of course, when he got with Tom Brady, it was just a match made in heaven. Like, the touchdowns every week. I mean, they did some great things together, too. I think he broke Jerry Rice's single-season touchdown record with that year when he was with Tom Brady. So, Randy Moss, congratulations to him on that, getting the Ring of Honor for the Vikings, getting inducted into that. That was huge. Also, I want to go into this week. Tracy McGrady last week got inducted into the NBA Hall of Fame.
T-Mac.
We know T-Mac. He played for 16 years. Started in 1997 all the way through 2013. He played for Toronto, Orlando, Houston, had a small stint with San Antonio and the New York Knicks before his retirement. And let's just give you a clip of some portion of his acceptance speech. Isaiah Thomas actually was the NBA head coach, the real Isaiah Thomas.
That's what I was going to ask you. I was like, really? The Cleveland?
No, not the Cleveland Boston Celtics Isaiah Thomas, but the real Isaiah Thomas. the Detroit Piston
Right.
Isaiah Thomas, bad boy.
The legend.